Welcome back to the National Defense. It's Randy Miller. So excited to have back on the program President George W. Bush. Mr. President, how are you?
Randy, life's good. It's thank you. I'm talking to you from Dallas, the center of free enterprise. But everything's good. The family's good. We're healthy. We're
great.
Blessed. Thank you.
Yeah, and you haven't driven a car in how long?
Since 1993.
Wow, that's amazing.
But I have ridden a mountain bike, and
yes.
I do it quite frequently. And this past weekend, in order to celebrate my 75th year of life, I invited 9 wounded vets down to ride at the ranch, and it was one of the great days.
Wow.
Yeah, it was awesome. I mean, just
now,
awesome.
You've done that before, and it hasn't turned out very well. They show you up on a regular basis, don't they?
Well, they still do, but but they were at least polite about it this year. But yeah, they're great. It's what a wonderful group of people, and I consider them dear friends, and I consider them unbelievably important assets to the future of the country.
Absolutely. You celebrated that in your first portrait book, Profiles in Courage, which was fantastic, and just got such great aplomb from everybody. I mean, everybody, every veteran loved that. I'm sure every veteran family has a copy of that book. And now you've got a new book out of many, one, celebrating
Right.
immigrants, celebrating American immigrants and their inspiring stories of what they've become in America, right?
Right. The reason I did this, Randy, is I'm real concerned about the tone of the immigration debate. It's very political.
Right.
It's a hot topic. And the tone got a little out of hand, in my judgment, on both sides. And I wanted to try to maybe recalibrate people's thinking about the importance of immigration to our country. And by changing the tone, I hopefully end up encouraging Congress to come together and create some solutions to what is going to be necessary to enforce our border. And but yeah, I was telling stories of incredible people, and it's a beautiful country that attracts people who suffered and who are looking for a better life, and that's what America does.
Well, it's a great book, and it's not so far removed actually from your first book, because a lot of immigrants were the backbone of our nation's military. I didn't know this, but during the Civil War, more than 20% of Union soldiers were foreign born. And
Yeah.
I mean, you go through history and you look at some of the combats, and I mean, every single engagement we've had are filled with immigrants. And I know you profiled a very special one in your book, right?
Yeah. He's a Medal of Honor winner. One of the things, before we get to him, I've been to a fair number of naturalization ceremonies, and we had one down here in Dallas where 2 of the people came wearing Marine uniforms, and they had been in combat. And as a result, I'm thinking, wow, what a country it is where people are willing to serve to defend America and yet not be citizens. And so you're right.
Right.
There's been a lot. And I want to show you the portrait I did. There's been a lot of, as I understand it, the Medal of Honor winners, a lot of them have come from overseas. They weren't born in America.
I think you're right. And this is such an inspiring story of
Flo
Groberg, captain, Medal of Honor recipient, served in Afghanistan, born in France, had an American father, an Algerian mother. And okay, here's what I love about that particular portrait. The first thing you see is the Medal of Honor.
That's right.
And I love that.
Thank you. Well, I painted it, obviously, we call that monochromatic. Not to be an artistic show off.
Now you're just showing off.
Hell, I didn't even know what that meant 8 years ago. But I wanted to highlight the courage of a guy who was born in France and served alongside our troops. And a way to do that was, and I also think it kind of conveyed my vision of the special operators, kind of tough guys who,
Right.
uh,
This guy took out a suicide bomber.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Incredible.
Yeah. Anyway, he's a very humble guy. When we unveiled the portraits, he came down with his girlfriend, I think, or maybe his wife. I hope if it's his wife, wife. Freddie tells me wife. He was not his girlfriend.
Right.
And,
his girlfriend and his wife came in.
Yeah, that's right. Girlfriend and wife. And, he's a contributing member of society. He's a smart guy. But he was grateful, I think, that I painted his picture. And he represented a lot of people who've served in our military.
Right.
One of the guys I put in the book, the veterans book, the guy lost his leg, but he had snuck in America, and
right.
He wanted to be a part of our society, and he served the military, lost his leg, and he's now helping others. And every one of these immigrants in this book were helped by somebody, and they in turn help once they get settled. And it's just important.
Well, that's the other point of that, right? I mean, immigrants come to this country, become citizens. It become absolutely exceptional citizens, and it leads to them helping in their communities, and it's better for everybody. So
I agree.
I guess I've never really understood the debate on immigration, and this is your way. I think this is such a clever way. I think that you found to add to that discussion without really politicizing it.
Yeah, that was the intent, Randy. Thank you. I think on the political debate, it's just very important to understand that American people expect our borders to be enforced.
Right.
And the point I make in this book is that a broken system makes it harder to enforce the border.
Right.
And we got to fix the system so that the Border Patrol can do their job. But the rhetoric ought to be much more elevated than it has been. And my attempt here is to talk about the beauty and the contribution. If people are worried about patriotism, there's no more patriotic person.
Oh,
it's somebody who comes and breathes the fresh air of freedom here in the United States.
Can I tell you a quick story about a guy that lives around your parts? There's a boot company, great boot company called Twisted X Boots. Okay. And it's in Texas. When I worked for the VFW, they were one of our main sponsors. And this man came over. I think he came over from India. He's an immigrant, became a citizen, and tells a story about his becoming a citizen where during the ceremony, he started crying.
Yeah.
And after that, every pair of boots that he sells to anyone, he gives them a miniature copy of the U.S. Constitution.
There you go.
Now, who do you know that is not an immigrant who does that?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, nobody.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. I mean, these ceremonies are unbelievably emotional. And it's a beautiful thing to watch. People from all over the world who paid their dues and who finally get in are just so proud. And one of my favorite things to say is, my fellow American, you're no less or more American than me. And having been the president, it gives a little extra oomph.
Yeah, I would think.
All equal.
Well, so I don't know how you selected the individuals for this book, and out of many one, but that has to be a funny phone call to get. President Bush wants to meet you, and he also wants to paint your portrait.
Right. Well, some of them I knew, ahead of time, of course. But yeah, I mean, we were very careful of who we selected because I wanted to know their stories before I painted them, obviously.
Sure.
And you can't paint empathetically without knowing the hardships or what they went through to get to America. But yeah, I'm sure there were some surprised people. But more importantly, when we unveiled their portraits, some of them were really surprised.
But they're so good. I mean, you're getting better. I mean, your first book was great, but you're getting better at this. I mean, you're like the John Grisham of art books now.
I don't know about that, but I work hard at it. And like anything, if you work hard in life, you can improve. And I'm a good lesson about challenging life and challenge yourself in life and not atrophying. Not letting your mind waste. I never thought I'd ever be a painter. And 8 years ago, I started painting. And my wife knew I was never going to be a painter. That's shocking to her. You never know what you can do in life until you try. So people listening to our conversation ought not to be afraid to try new things.
Well, we had Nora O'Donnell on the show right after she interviewed you, and she said that she talked to your wife, and your wife actually said, "I didn't think you'd be any good at this, but he's actually pretty good."
Yeah, well, she's shocked. Nora came down to my studio there at the ranch, and we had a wonderful time. She's a very nice person.
Well, you've got the #1 New York Times best-selling book right now. Who's selling more books, you or Michelle Obama?
Michelle Obama by far. I mean, I think my first book sold, over 3.5 million copies, or 3.4 million. She's at like 11 million copies. Wow. And I mean, yeah, she's a rock star in the literary world. And
well, but what does that say about George W. Bush? I think it says a lot about you too. The fact that, I mean, it's a fascinating topic. It's a great book, but the fact that that people are buying it in droves, that has to make you feel pretty good.
Well, it makes me feel, yeah. I mean, it does make me feel good. The key thing, though, is that a lot of the proceeds from this book are going to the organizations that help refugees and asylum seekers.
Yeah.
And that makes me feel good.
Now, this must be my week for presidential families, because we interviewed Michael Reagan yesterday.
Oh,
yeah. He had some great things to say about you, and had a especially cool story about the day that Reagan selected your dad. He wanted Michael to be in the room when that happened.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah,
that's very cool. Mike's a good guy. His dad was a great leader. And, I got to know him as members of the Sons of Presidents Club. And,
right.
Yeah, we got along just fine. I hope he's doing well.
He's doing great. He's in charge of the Reagan Legacy Foundation. So he's doing great. And, his dad is going to be portrayed by Dennis Quaid in an upcoming movie here in a couple of months.
Well, I hope that Hollywood does him justice, because he was a really good president. And
so when they do the George W. Bush movie, who's going to play you?
Will Ferrell.
That's good. Hey, we're going to do a new segment, if you don't mind, called Got Your Six.
Okay.
These are 6 rapid fire questions for President George W. Bush. Ready?
Yes.
Most fun game you play with the grandkids?
Well, they're very young. Let's see. Reading bedtime stories.
Bedtime story. All right. Last time you talked to Joe Biden?
He called me to thank me for something, and it was probably 3 weeks ago.
Best dog you've ever had?
Freddie, the current dog, named for Chief of Staff Freddie Ford.
That's right. Who does the best impression of you? Is it Will Ferrell?
I didn't pay that close attention to it all, but actually it was a guy named Steve Bridges, who.
Yeah, right.
He became a friend of mine. Unfortunately, he passed away, but he was by far the best George W. Bush. So I had a birthday party for my brother Marvin at the White House, and I got Steve to come down, and I was welcoming everybody, and Josh Bolton, Chief of Staff, came and whispered in my ear. And so I said, "Excuse me, I got to go take an important phone call," and left. And Bridges came back in as me. And it was
that's pretty
funny.
And favorite Cheney?
Cheney? I think the favorite Cheney was Cheney's an avid hunter, and as I said, Dick, you're the only guy who you shot the only trial lawyer for me in Texas, and but that was a very difficult moment for Dick. He didn't laugh much about it.
Yeah,
but yeah, he's a really good guy. And
what is up with our military not getting vaccinated? First of all, thank you for your efforts in that.
But I don't know.
I don't either.
I don't get it. I don't get it. I think that, I think that some people are just there's some conspiracy out there that people listen to.
Sure.
There's some anti-government sentiment, it's, if the government tells me to do it, I'm not going to do it. I mean, there's some independence.
Sure.
But I would hope that, people realize it's a passport to freedom to
Right.
get vaccinated. I mean, it changed my outlook for sure. And
What could you call Joe Biden and have him come on this show to tell the men and women of the armed forces that they need to get vaccinated?
yeah, absolutely. Well, I think if I were to advise him on your show, I'd say, look people in the eye and tell them thank you for volunteering, and we'll make sure your families are taken care of.
Absolutely. And just the final thing I have for you, Mr. President, what do you think about the withdrawal from Afghanistan?
I think that it's treacherous. Our soldiers sacrificed a lot to enable over 3 million girls and women to begin to realize their rightful place in society. Not only did they act to deny safe haven to a bunch of extremists who attacked us, but in so doing, they enabled people to realize potential. And that is now going to be jeopardized. And so I'm deeply concerned about how the Taliban, if they regain power, treats women. And it should concern our nation.
Right.
Because we're a nation that believes in human dignity and that all lives matter. And so I'm concerned about it. It started in the previous administration. This administration continues on. One of the lessons in Iraq was when we precipitously pulled out, it enabled and empowered extremist groups like what was Al Qaeda, now ISIS. And we had to go back in. But the thing here's about the U.S. military. Nobody can defeat us. And we provide such great stability, particularly for countries that are trying to get their footing. And, I don't know. I'm worried.
Well, Mr. President, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for the books. Out of many, one is the current book. And now you've done 2 books now for unheralded segments of our population. I've got an idea for your third one.
What is it?
Portraits of radio DJs.
Ha! You know what? Those faces would be hard to paint because they've got faces made for radio.
And with that, thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Randy.